Good evening, dear viewers of Equinoxe Television. Thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast. First, our major stories. Critics are lambasting government authorities for what they consider as poor management of disaster and natural catastrophes in general. Their reaction comes shortly after the deadly landslide that claimed the lives of 4 persons and 40 others reported missing. The landslide that occurred on the road linking Sanchu and Chang in the west region of Cameroon. Meantime, in the same vein, the head of state, President Paul Biya, has been criticized for being oblivious to the realities and pains of Cameroonians. Observers question why the president preferred to congratulate the newly elected president of the United States of America, Donald Trump, without a message to victims and families of victims of the landslide that occurred in Chang in the west region of Cameroon. And away from that, we'll tell you how flood victims in the Mayo-Denai division, the far north region, are sending distress calls over the deplorable living conditions. They say feeding, clothing and shelter remains a major cause of concern. They are pleading on the population to come to their rescue. Those are major stories. Stay with us for details and more. If you're just joining us, then know you are watching the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television, and for presentation, I am Immaculate Fogwe. Critics are lambasting government authorities for what they consider as poor management of disaster and natural catastrophes. Their reaction comes shortly after the deadly landslide that claimed the lives of 4 persons. We have details with Babila Jonathan.
Several persons are still missing after the landslide that occurred along the road linking Sanchu and Chang in the west region of Cameroon. He has lost hope in the possibility of survival for his mother and grandmother. Kim, many inhabitants of Sanchu and Chang are waiting to see what has happened to their relatives who were here at the time of the incident. Some witnesses say tens of persons are still trapped beneath the massive quantity of soil that came down from the cliff. Rescue soldiers have been at work, though with inappropriate tools, according to disaster management experts. Critics are lambasting government authorities and institutions, including the Ministry of Territorial Administration, over what they call poor management of such incidents.
Babila Jonathan reporting there. The ruling Cameroon People's Democratic Movement CPDM political party has demonstrated a disturbing lack of empathy for the victims and families of victims of the deadly landslide in Chang Menua Division, the west region of Cameroon. While families were mourning their loved ones, CPDM party officials ignored their pains and settled for fanfare in commemorating the 42nd anniversary of President Paul Biya's coming to power. We have details with Fomi Armstrong Sander.
Cameroon is mourning following the huge landslide that killed 4, wounding many in Chang in the Menua division of the west region. However, some Cameroonians seem to be indifferent to the horror and pains. Within the ruling CPDM party, for example, focus is on the newly elected United States President and the 42nd anniversary of President Paul Biya's coming to power. While families cry the tragic loss of their loved ones at La Falaise Chang, President Paul Biya has remained loud in silence without a condolence message to mourners. Turning a deaf ear, the president wasted no time to congratulate Donald Trump for his brilliant election at the helm of the United States of America. More like their national president, several government ministers and members of the ruling CPDM party settled for feasting on November 6, 2024. Ignoring what existed here before the unfortunate incident, CPDM party bigwigs across Cameroon stopped at nothing to have fun, even without a moment of silence for the souls that perished in the landslide.
En cette journée rayonnante et ensoleillée, Mobilisons-nous comme un seul homme derrière le président Paul Biya.
C'est votre engagement qui fait que le président Paul Biya s'est régénéré sans cesse.
For those wishing to give a helping hand in the search for survivors or more victims, the Minister of Territorial Administration.
And while some people continue feasting, some Cameroonians continue perishing along the National Road number 5 due to the deplorable state of roads. The road linking the littoral and west regions is marked by huge potholes, which accounts for the numerous accidents recorded on the stretch. In the following report, Innocent Azeb presents to us the state of the stretch from Douala to Melong and the ordeals faced by travelers. His report.
If this National Road number 5 linking the littoral and west regions is beautified by the toll gates and attractive Njome banana plantation, its crater state dilutes the smile on the faces of drivers and travelers. Bekume Kake village, where the road was extremely bad, is experiencing maintenance works, which are ongoing at a very slow pace. Plying the roads in a nutshell is more than a fool's errand. Drivers must be flexible and acquainted with gymnastics to drive over the national roads hitch-free. Passengers, on their part, must be brave and strong to withstand the constant bouncing of their vehicle and its movement in all directions. The situation is more chronic in Banga. Few kilometers ahead, the road is almost impassable. Maintenance work here stagnates. Results of the project, since it was launched months back, is still awaited. The stretch linking Bikoko and Kongsamba that was supposed to be undergoing maintenance for months now does not seem to be advancing. Travelers are trapped in the vehicle, exhausted, before arriving Melong from Douala due to slow driving dictated by the one out National Road number 5.
And away from news connected to the landslide that occurred in Chang, flood victims of the Mayo-Danai in the far north region say life has become a living hell after losing their family members and equally being ripped off of all their valuable items. According to them, the assistance they have received from the government was not enough. They are requesting that persons of goodwill come to their aid. The call from the flood victims came as the Cam Renaissance Movement CRM political party distributed basic commodities to some victims in Yagua recently. We have details with Smart Jikan Gabriel.
Inhabitants of Yagua in the Mayo-Danai division of the far north region are still in pains as they continue to live in desperate conditions after the flood that caused a lot of damages in the division. Notwithstanding the order of the Territorial Administration Minister that prohibited unnecessary contributions from other people to support the suffering people of Yagua, the Cameroon Renaissance Movement CRM party of Professor Maurice Kamto have been in the far north region to give their support to some of these victims. Bags of rice, cartons of soaps and mats were amongst the items the CRM party gave to some flood victims in Yagua.
La solidarité.
The fifth pillar of the MRC is solidarity. The national president, after launching the support drive, the little they collected from the sympathizers is what we have brought to the people of Yagua. People died and some saw their properties destroyed. We can't replace everything, but the little we have brought is to show we share in your pains. From door to door, the action of the CRM caravan was felt by the flood victims. Apart from medicine, foodstuffs and mats, some taps for potable water financed by the CRM party caravan were also handed out to the desperate flood victims in Yagua. We thank the MRC for thinking about the flood victims of the Mayo-Danai. This is a symbolic gift and won't be enough for everyone, but the little we shall give out, everyone will take with joy. The victims are still calling on some good Samaritans to come to their rescue because the situation hasn't changed as a result of the floods in Mayo-Danai. At least 158,620 people were affected, with 3,000 hectares of land destroyed and 8,690 houses damaged by the floods.
Now we talk something else. Several women, including young girls across the country, continue to face gender-based violence. Most times, the situation goes unnoticed because of the fear of being stigmatized. Educating these women on how to combat domestic violence and other societal ills is the objective of a gathering that brought together gender-based activists and civil society actors, as Ese Lucilengo tells us.
Families in Cameroon face numerous societal ills that undermine their stability and well-being. Economic hardship makes it difficult for some families to meet basic needs, often resulting in strained relationships.
We are all aware of the societal ills. When we look at the social media today, we see that the family is really at risk.
The general observation is that divorce is on the rise, because if you see the number of persons that talk about the fact that they are no longer living together, the number keeps rising.
With the crisis affecting the southwest, northwest, and far north regions, more women and young girls have been victims of sexual assault, and most of them hesitate to report due to fear of being stigmatized.
A lot of gender-based violence is being perpetrated in our community. Most families are having complex challenges that are even leading to breakage.
To curb this phenomenon, which is like a cankerworm eating up the society, the Ministry of Women Empowerment and Family and civil society organizations in the country are developing strategies aimed at empowering women and promoting gender equality.
The world is something different today. So when we had this opportunity, we had to seize it and inform our people so that we can prevent maybe in future such things that are ills of the society today.
We expect that there should be some kind of restitution. Firstly, as they go back to their families, and in their different groups, they share the same information with their peers.
An initiative praised by the participants.
I believe that from the lessons we have gotten here today, we are going to organize workshops and go out to encourage more women and teach more women groups.
The challenges faced by marriages and young girls in the country are deeply rooted in cultural, economic, and legal factors.
That's it for the first part of the news. Talking Point is up next. My guest tonight is a safety and quality consultant, and he's known as Nyong Clement Banta. It's a pleasure to have you on Talking Point tonight.
Good evening, Immaculate. Thank you for having me here today, and good evening to your televiewers.
Clement, we all watched the unfortunate incident that occurred on the Chang Cliff in the West region. At least 4 dead bodies were retrieved, with over 40 others missing. As a leader of a safety institution, was this area identified as being prone to a landslide?
Firstly, before to comment on this sad incident, I extend my condolences to the family who are concerned by this. I'm not sure if this area was initially identified as a landslide risk area, but losing whether it's just one person in such an incident, it's very regrettable, and with appropriate measures put in place before this incident, I think it could have been prevented. So I wouldn't say this was identified as a risk area, or if measures were taken for it not to happen. I think that's what I can put.
As a safety expert, can you tell us how such operations are carried out after a landslide, and equally seeing what happened at the Chang Cliff, were the safety and security norms respected?
Okay, from the, I think should be amateur videos which I saw circulating on social media and some TV channels. I think the emergency rescue operations put in place by those who were witnessing the scene is not a standard approach because, as you could see in the video, there was a second landslide which had more negative impact than the first one, because these people were standing in the wrong place, which means that if this rescue approach was done according to standard, nobody would have been exposed to this second landslide. So and so you could see people using traditional tools to search for people that are covered by this ground. There are more advanced technology that could be used in searching for people in such situations, but what we see, it's not really what it's supposed to be. Using just voice by calling, if somebody could hear you, if somebody is buried within the ground, he cannot hear you, and so I think the search and rescue operation was not adequate. And also I think the timing also, that I could see in some image, some Red Cross, I think there should be something which they appear on scene a bit much more later than it was. So again, this comes back to the fact, to your first question, which was asking if this area was initially identified as a risk area. If that was the case, then there should have been like an emergency rescue kind of unit around this environment or in this region, ready to deploy their rescue operations and ensuring that they reduce or limit the degree of this hazard.
Many are wondering why this area wasn't barricaded immediately after the first landslide. Do you think if the area had been barricaded, we would have had lesser casualties?
For sure, because when an incident occurs, this is a natural disaster, and as per norms, every community, every activity that is prone to have a risk of this magnitude, there's a need to put necessary measures in case to prevent first this from occurring, and also to limit the number of people that can be exposed to this kind of events. So the first thing which could have been done after the first appearance of the landslide will have been to either block this road, taking a reasonable distance to limit the people coming in closer range to this high-risk area. And you see, when the second landslide occurred, from the video I saw, we still had some vehicles, some people still very closer to the site, looking at, admiring, commenting on the first slide. Okay, so if this road was barricaded and people limited from coming closer, they would have been exposed. And yeah, so that's the sad thing about it. If the road was barricaded, these people would not find themselves in this second landslide incident.
Seeing the way these people behaved, it's quite clear that many of the victims were clueless on security measures to take when confronted with such a disaster. Who then is expected to sensitize civilians on how to react when faced with such a situation? Okay,
yeah, it's a collective responsibility, because when it comes to the safety of an individual or the community, it is everybody's responsibility. But primarily, it's also the government who has the responsibility, to protect the citizens. I think at the level of the Ministry of Territorial Administration, there is a division which is responsible for civil protection, and I think one of the role of this division is to identify high-risk area, put in place necessary measures to ensure that people are not exposed, to this kind of risks, especially natural disasters like this, because they don't send signals. Even though with advanced technology, there can be a monitoring system that enable people to have signs that there could be a landslide in the coming days. maybe if that was in place and this division is monitoring closely, it could be even naturally, if you have a tree that is standing on the slope, and as an expert working in that division with a monitoring plan in place, they could realize that either this tree has been shifted, indicating that there is some sort of overweight, or if there is a quarry operations going around this area with all the bombs, can generate vibration that would trigger this landslide, and this division should be able, to be aware about any operations going around this area that can trigger the landslide. So I think that's what also needs to be done. And then at the level of the civilian, the citizens, it's sad. It's not only about this landslide. We are so unsafe. We are we don't have this culture of safety. If you look at in our community, the way people behave, the way people act, sometimes they expose themselves to certain risks without knowing, because if they were conscious about the safety of themselves and those around them, someone will have taken the responsibility to say, okay, guys, I think with this first landslide we need to stay away from this area because we don't know what can happen next, and people will have moved away. So it's a collective responsibility. Maybe the Civil Protection Department has this plan in place to monitor these areas, but maybe they don't have the adequate resources. Maybe they don't have the competent people, all this has to do with the resources. So I think it's a collective responsibility, both at the level of the government and also at the level of the citizens, because it's a collective responsibility. We might have a situation where the government has allocated the resources required to keep people safe, but on the other hand, people are not utilizing these resources or are not following these procedures. Even the traffic lights that they put, people still do not respect it. It's not everybody that stands at the traffic light. So it's a collective responsibility which we all have to be conscious of it and act when time comes.
Now, for a landslide of such magnitude, we noticed the absence of search dogs, thermal imaging. We rather saw inhabitants using crude tools like spades, hoes. Was it a good idea to use such tools, and can we say the government has failed?
Well, like I said earlier, it again depends on the resources available. If the Civil Protection Department, which I believe is the department that exists at the Minat to take care of, protect people from such incident, if they are applied, or if they have this adequate resources to actually reduce the impact, because for me, in deploying to have a search and rescue dog, it's expensive. You need to train, you need to keep them. All of this is costly. And knowing our financial system, the way purporting, it cannot really work like it works in other developed world. To keep these rescue dogs or to keep rescue equipment ready to be deployed in case there is a landslide, or there is even a flood, or there is even volcanic eruptions. You see in other areas they could be even deploying helicopters in case this place is not accessible by road, to retrieve people, using geothermal imaging to detect the presence of individual underneath the ground, and using appropriate excavating tools to excavate and actually retrieve people. So this, I'm not sure, I've not been to this department, I'm not sure about whatever resources exist, but from the videos, it's clear that there is no proper tool to rescue people in such a situation. And it's sad, we are all humans, and emotionally when an incident happens like that, people are emotionally moved and will tend to use whatever they have at their means to try to rescue someone, even at the expense of putting themselves in danger, which is what we don't want to see, and why we are, me personally as representative of safety institutions with developing people to be able to promote, safety and protection within their communities, within the society. It's just but sad. I believe that this is not the first incident. There was one that occurred, I think, 2-3 years back in Yaoundé, and there was another one still in that same region. I think it was Ngwaishe or something, where we even have some personalities going there, But after that, what else? Do we need to wait again for another one when maybe it is a member of the government passing and then got trapped by this incident before we take action? So this is something which we need to all think about, bring propositions to the government. If they are able to listen to people with expertise like us or any other institutions which can give appropriate approach to preventing our community from such incident. Even if it's just one person that was involved in this incident, it's very sad. So talking of resources wise, maybe we need to give allocate resources for that if that is not the case.
Now let's look at the security approach which you just raised. Geologists warn of an imminent third landslide on the site. Is there any possibility of stopping such from happening?
Yeah, just a while ago I was talking about the resources, knowing that the resources that are required, to act when the incident has already occurred are very costly and might not be available. The primary and most cost-effective way to do that is prevention. So this will mean that we have an alternative route if at all this road is also not in good state. Okay, I think transportation or travel to this region, they could use alternative route, since from what it's going on where experts are saying that there is a possibility of a third landslide. This can, for a moment, limit the people being exposed in case there was a third landslide occurring. Okay, and for managing this, think when roads are being constructed, I'm not a road expert, but I think they take a general survey, taking into consideration possibility of landslide and maybe creating trenches with support that can help to stop a mass of land sliding to come across the road. They can mount very huge and hard, strong fence which can enable to stop whatever mass of ground that is slipping along the slope. So that's what can be done. In some areas there are some trees that are adapted to keep the soil firm together, not to. So it's all of this, and then also areas that landslide occurs because the soil beneath, the soil profile might be fragile at some level, and if there is a quarry going around this area, it can trigger vibrations and then cause this landslide. So they should also look at if there is not such activity in the area that can create this vibration, and then rain has been towards the end of the rainy season, maybe it can also be a cause. So the only way is to divert people to an alternative route while they look into more details what will be an appropriate way to put this route practicable and less risky. And then also not only to focus on this region, look all over the national territory, identify areas where there is a possibility of this occurring, and then taking necessary measures, not to wait when it happens before we start again to think, oh, what happened, and we see on social media people sending rest in peace and crying. That's not what will help. It's the actions we take to prevent that will help.
Young Clement Banta, thank you so much for accepting my invitation.
Thank you, Immaculate, and nice evening to your televiewers.
And that's what put an end to today's edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for always taking the rendezvous with us. That's it. Have a wonderful evening and stay blessed in the company of more interesting programs on Equinoxe television. Bye-bye for now. See you tomorrow, God willing.